Welcome to the Mechanical Room. A Centrotherm production focusing on all things in and around the HVAC industry. And now, your hosts, Michael Sokaris and Matthew Pryce.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our July episode here at the Mechanical Room. I believe this is episode number 7. Mr. Pryce, welcome back. It's a beautiful July day, and we're here to bring light to our favorite topic, the Mechanical Room. So, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I personally am not rated to 230 degrees Fahrenheit in this hot July, like the flue gas temperatures, but it is hot enough for me. I can hear my air conditioner cranking. It is a spicy July day, and we have a spicy show this month on the Mechanical Room. We're going to be welcoming in fellow Centrotherm cohort Dennis Ellis, who is our production manager. I almost gave the previous title that he had. He started as production supervisor and has been promoted up to the grand poobah of the downstairs situation on the factory floor there, running all of the machines, fixing all the machines as we speak, and making sure it runs smoothly. And we're going to talk all about logistics, production, managing staff, hiring, everything in between. Dennis gives the tours at Centrotherm. He's also on the Hardy Council. We'll get into his full biography and let him tell it in his own words in just a bit. But for now, it's time to give away some sweet swag with our segment that we do every month. Show us your pipe.
Welcome back, everybody. It is now time for the Show Us Your Pipe segment of our show. This is where we highlight a very nice install of the Centrotherm product. And this one, it kind of hits a little home, Mr. Pryce. This is one of our actual reps who decided to take out and throw away, as they well should, their PVC and in their live fire room install the best you can get, UL 1738 listed Centrotherm for their product, for their venting and their intake. So I think the photos that we've got are an actual before and after install, going from a material that is rated for 140 and not UL listed to a material that is UL listed to 1738, which is very important, better than UL 636, much more stringent, and actually with a higher temperature rating at 230. So I believe in the picture there is an A.O. Smith and Lars equipment that they are venting, but they also offer triangle tube as part of their offer, and of course the best-in-class UL 1738 Centrotherm system. So kind of step us through what's going on and what they get.
So yeah, I mean, this is the TM training room, and the thing that I really like about this picture in particular is, they have the faceplate is removed from those water heaters, so you can actually get into the guts of those units, and that is, that's really starting the training at the source and letting people know how it works here. And obviously we love to see in a flue in the training room, and this is a really nicely organized single wall setup. It really does highlight the zero clearance to combustibles element of the pipe because they're all kind of hugged into each other really nicely. Other installations might common vent them together into a larger diameter manifold. They've got these ones individually vented with, of course, a straight piece up and a 45 on the combustion air side of it as well. It's just a neat job. And by neat, I mean clean. It's tidy, which is not something you always see in the Mechanical Room. We've shown a handful of different types of installations here, from commercial size stuff to an individual water heater that's nicely mounted with my favorite, of course, what I'm talking about, the diamond plate. This is in the live fire room. There, if you pan back there are tables and chairs and whatnot, and you know, a projector screen and things to do broadcast images on, but nothing really illustrates as clearly as the equipment itself. Obviously, they have the rest of their products all hooked up to, or the rest of the products they represent hooked up to these machines as well. I believe they represent Upanor amongst others. And, you know, I mean, it's a really clean looking training room that will really let those who sit there and take that class will leave with a greater understanding of what's going on. And that's not just the Inaflu training, that's whatever training they're doing in there. The real world element is what wins the prize here for us anyway, showing the way that it actually works, the way that this could easily be, you take out the nice white room and the track lighting that's meant for the educational purposes, you put this in the mechanical room of a hotel or an apartment complex or something like that. That's what this would look like if a professional came in and laid out all of that copper and laid out, you know, and supported the vent in the right way and all that stuff. So credit to TM.
Real world in the form of a training center. And,
absolutely.
And something that we always talk about quite a bit is, you know, doing things right, you know, being a craftsman in what you do. So if you need that training, you know, in Colorado at TM Sales or anywhere else, we can support you. TM Sales certainly has a technical staff that can do it. It's just overall, it kind of hits on many things that are important. You know, doing something, doing it right, having a UL listed product, being trained, all of that's very important for the craftsmen out there.
Indeed, and it goes even deeper than the folks who are, you know, have this logo on their line card. We as an organization are happy to supply technical schools, trade schools with this type of stuff, assuming they have a live fire room that requires it as well. Safety, of course, is paramount, and doing a job professional is really what, you know, these folks in the training are striving for. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there to improve themselves. So it all works together really, really well. And we just want to thank TM for you know, being on the team and taking the time to create such a neat and professional training room, which will leave their contractors and the, you know, the greater Colorado area in a better position, knowing that their special gas vent installations are done properly. So good job on you guys. We're going to be sending you out some t-shirts and some sweatbands and the other swag stuff that we've got down there. And yes, it's spicy like July. Even in the mountains of Colorado, they sweat a little bit out there, climbing up the elevation and all that. And we'll be right back with our July guest. Welcome back to the mechanical room, and today we have a great treat. We take it down to the production floor and welcome in Dennis Ellis. He is Centrotherm's production supervisor. Happy anniversary, Dennis. Like myself, it is 6 years at Centrotherm in August. So congratulations to you. Dennis is a RPI grad, so a local boy done good here at Centrotherm. He is now the production manager. He is one of the few people who can do literally every job on the floor at Centrotherm, and boy, does he ever. We are 5 minutes late to recording this podcast because Dennis was pulling wrenches out of the beller or whatever it was down there, getting it fixed back so we can now get those sockets out to the market. Dennis is a large Mets fan, Syracuse fan, and an all-around good guy, and we welcome you to the mechanical room. Michael, say hello to Dennis.
Mr. Ellis, good afternoon. How are you today, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you very much. So what was wrong with the beller? What happened today?
So yeah, the pipe belling machine, it presented a couple errors this morning. They're basically sensor movement errors. The error went away for a little while, and then I went to lunch, of course. And as soon as I walked out of the building, Bob, the operator, called me and said it happened again and it won't clear. So I had to cancel my lunch, come back. And then it turned out that there was a bad sensor, or a sensor that was going bad. So myself and the production engineer went in there, took the bad one out, put the new one in, and tested it, and it's running again now.
Well,
Is that like a, how often does that happen?
You didn't cancel the meeting with us, so thank you very much.
No, I actually, as soon as like the first good pipe came back through, I looked down at the time and I was like, geez, I was supposed to be there at 1. So in terms of how often that happens, that's the first time that particular sensor or any of the sensors that move the pipes from one station to the other has ever gone bad since I've been here. So not very often. Luckily, the machine does give you a reading and tells you exactly what sensor didn't read correctly, so you can find it fairly easily.
So you don't have to go into the glove compartment and then and figure out what light is now lighting up now to see what the error
There's
is
a
on the
little
card?
hunting. So every sensor has like a tag that's numbered. So it tells you the number, but you have to like climb through and find where it is.
Excellent. So why don't you briefly explain what the heck a beller is for some folks who don't know what that is out there? It's probably one of the central pieces of equipment on the Centrotherm floor. And I must
Sure,
say,
yeah.
it's one of the things that predates both Dennis and I at the company as well.
So yeah, it was the first major production equipment that we installed in the United States, and that happened about 5 or 6 months before I started here. So we would get raw pipe, and then the belling machine, all it does is it uses blow molding to put the socket end on the end of the pipe. So it heats the pipe up to it's soft, and then it uses air pressure to blow open the socket and create the gasket seat. So anyone that's used our pipes, that's how you put the female end on the end of the pipes.
Indeed. So we've grown from beller to extrusion lines and obviously top of the line palletizing machine and a few other things as well out there. How much of the stuff did you know and how much have you learned how much did you come into the company knowing, and describe a little bit of your evolution as a production manager here now doing melted plastics and HVAC equipment?
Yeah, so I knew zero. Before here, after college, I worked at a nano chip facility at SUNY Poly. So worked on some production equipment, but it was making silicone wafers. It had nothing to do with plastics. So I had to learn, I guess, as we installed new equipment, I would work with the vendors, the machine manufacturers, and learn as we go. A lot of it is, it's that inherited knowledge, which makes it so tough, right? It's like an art and a science combined. So the more you do it, the more you see it, the more you troubleshoot it, the more you're going to understand it. But until you do it, you don't know what you don't know.
So with production, right now the world is having massive disruption in production. I was just talking to somebody that works for an air conditioning manufacturer earlier, and they were saying they've gone from originally 4 to 6 weeks, now up to 6 months out. How are you keeping your sanity, and how is the production working for you as far as Centrotherm goes?
Keeping my sanity, I would say not very well, but trying. It is by far the most challenging time that I've had here. Sales are up. The workforce is not. So it's always a challenge finding people right now. The other half of the story is, we have more inventory than we've ever had at any point in time since I've been here in terms of dollar amount, but we're still always out of something. So we continue to build inventory to try to prevent stockouts and make sure we're prepared for increases in sales. But there's between the 10 major vendors that we work with, they're constantly having delays, extra lead times. So we build inventory. We have a lot of stuff, but we still have some small issues where we don't have something, and then that makes it's like a domino effect, right? So if I don't have something raw material wise to make through manufacturing, that hurts manufacturing and production, and then the guys in the warehouse have to hold orders or double ship, right? They ship out what they have and then do a back order, so now they're doing double the work, so it like stacks a little bit of a domino effect.
Actually, the reason that Matthew and I, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think right now we're managing pretty good. Not as good as Centrotherm historically has been, but I would say comparison to some of our vendors, I think we're doing okay.
And in comparison to what the majority of the HVAC industry is encountering right now, I feel pretty proud, to go out and just give the minor changes that we've had.
Yep.
And that's actually what brought Matthew and I to, when we discuss guests, we wanted to come look at, the HVAC industry from a manufacturing perspective. And we know that you're kind of, in my view, best in class on how you've handled things. So hence, we thank you for joining us. I know production is pretty crazy right now.
Sure. Yeah. I'm on a hardy group that does nothing but logistics, and everyone has the same thing that you were saying. They're getting 6 month, 8 month. Some aren't even taking POs for other products in the HVAC industry.
So yeah, you mentioned
a lot of the hardy people, the wholesalers, are they would love the lead times that we're offering right now.
Yeah.
So we're the hardy superstars here. We got the supplier council with Sokaris. I'm on the marketing council, and you're on the logistics council, which is a good pivot to a tangentially related situation here. So you just alluded to the stuff that's happening like on the floor. Why don't you outline the insanity that comes through the bay doors and leaving out? I mean, logistics right now is it your biggest headache? Is it a bigger issue than the production stuff? And what's going on in logistics for everybody out there?
Yeah, so it's starting to become the biggest issue. Originally, the biggest issue was manpower. We've staffed up significantly. A lot of the new people are still training, but in the next coming weeks, we're going to see some real positive impact from a lot of the new hires. In terms of production and equipment, we have capacity. We can make, we're only running 3 to 4 days a week making extruding pipes, so we have the capabilities of making more with that. So I don't lose sleep over production in terms of like machine power or getting pipes made, stuff like that. It's the manpower to do the handwork, and then, like you said, the logistics of getting it from here to there. Everything from price to reliability to availability. So some carriers have just stopped taking large truckload or volume moves. So standard order might be 4 pallets. If somebody puts in a larger order because it's busy right now and it's 10, I've had carriers come to me and say, we're not moving it. Find somebody else.
Essentially giving away their business.
Yeah, they're just simply pushing, saying, we don't want it. We've got enough regular business. I don't want this extra headache of having to try to fit 10 pallets on a truck.
Without going into specifics, is there one carrier, you don't have to name any names, but are there some that are like
names, come on, who's doing well?
So are there some who are managing this better than others, and do you then lean on them a little more if possible? And have you leaned too far potentially into one of the good ones, and then then they get moved to the other column?
Yeah, of course. You tend to notice which ones aren't as good and not necessarily say, oh, this one's been great, because the headaches are what stick out to you. So we've definitely had 1 or 2 carriers that have been a thorn in our side. So we use basically a combination of 5 to 6 carriers. We have 2 or 3 regional carriers, and then 2 or 3 that do long haul. So anything moving to the West Coast or Canada. Everyone knows in the freight world, UPS Freight just got bought out and has changed hands to T-Force. That was not exactly a seamless transition so far. So without mentioning names, I'll just say that. And then one other very well-known national carrier has had a lot of problems with picking up on time, delivering in a reasonable amount of time, making sure things don't get lost, and keeping things intact and not damaging.
Is it wholly related to the pandemic, or I mean, is it a labor issue? I remember an instance maybe a year and a half to almost probably 2 years ago at this point. I don't know, the years sort of blend together. I remember a carrier just basically dissolved over the weekend one time, right?
Yes, that was New England Motor Freight. Yeah, we came in on Monday, and literally one of the truck drivers is like, yeah, I was told this morning I don't have a job tomorrow. I'm like, what? And he's still delivering to us. And he's like, yeah, they told us this morning that this is our last run. And I was like, oh. So yeah, there's been constantly over the last couple of years, maybe even half a decade, consolidation in the trucking industry, or people just walking away. The problems now are threefold. Number one, there's been a driver shortage forever, for like 10 years now. So they're constantly, trying to find drivers. They don't have enough drivers. They're making drivers work crazy hours. Number two, you had this huge influx of freight from, all the economy boom that came after COVID with the government spending and everything else. And then three, there was a worker shortage. So even dock workers, guys that unload trucks at the terminals and then reload trucks going to a different location. So when you're trying to do more work with less people and asking other people to do more, work more hours, I think you get more mistakes. That was 100% the case with this one particular carrier that I haven't mentioned, particularly in the Albany area. They brought in, I talked to I had enough issues where I got in touch with their VP of sales for the whole region. And he said that he's been in Albany for like 2 weeks because he's trying to just literally, they have sales guys working on the docks. They had like 13 full trucks in the yard that they haven't been able to unload yet. So they were really struggling. And I was hammering our rep, saying, you've either got to tell me you can do it or tell me you can't. Don't tell me you can and then don't, right? If you can't take the freight, I'll find somebody else. But don't tell me you're fine and you can do it and then not be able to deliver. Funny story. So this carrier, it was just a coincidence. I bought a new house in the fall and I went from like a 1/4 acre to 1.5 acres of lawn. So I knew this spring I need a lawnmower. So I bought it, but they didn't have the one I wanted at the local hardware store. So they were going to ship it to me. So fine, whatever. It would be, 7 to 10 business days. 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by. So now I'm talking to the hardware store and they're like, well, I can give you the tracking and you can try to, sure enough, it's this carrier. So this carrier is supposed to be delivering it to my house. So I call up our poor rep and I'm like, listen, my lawn's up to my knees. I've tried push mowing it twice and it took me the entire weekend. I need this lawnmower. So I was literally like using our problems here at Centrotherm to get her to pull me a favor to get my lawnmower delivered. And then the long story short is they sent a guy that was literally a long haul driver that goes usually from Albany out to Boston or wherever every day. So he takes the freight from Albany to Massachusetts and then freight back from Mass. That's all he does. He doesn't do like dock to dock deliveries. They sent him to my house at 9:30 on a Wednesday night and had him drop this lawnmower off because this poor rep was tired of me hounding her for 2 weeks.
Good to have him, as they say, right?
Yeah, you should have had that guy mow the lawn as a as a mea culpa. Like, get out. The driver
was super nice. I felt bad because I'm sure his night got delayed by like an hour and a half because he had to come out to wine and skill. But
sure.
So you're on the Hardy Logistics Committee. You deal with these guys at a regional and VP level. Is this problem going away in the foreseeable future, or are you living with it a lot longer?
I think it's here for a little while still. The people at Hardy and some of the other, logistics experts that we deal with are, they're pointing to the fall, September, maybe early winter for a little bit of improvement. I know that we personally have seen the labor market loosen up. So where we weren't getting any applicants, we're now getting, maybe not what we used to, but a good amount, at least some.
Yeah, some of them are even messaging the Instagram with aggression.
So I could tell, oh man, I can tell you stories about interviewing people.
We actually should get to that next. We'd love to hear a couple of stories like that.
But if the labor market's opening for me, I would think that it's the same for most people. And if that's the case and they can shore up their dockmen and find some drivers, I think it'll help. Everybody tells me they've got enough trucks, they have enough trailers, it's just drivers and helpers. So if we get the labor market to loosen up a little bit, I think we'll see improvements.
So tell us some interviewing stories. That sounds like fun. I mean, you're responsible for staffing up the downstairs as well, and during a period of intense growth, obviously hands are an issue where you're calculating down to man hours to fulfill things and whatnot. It is a less of a headache now, as you said, than the production outages and
Right.
logistics at the top of the heap. But clearly, you've got some slight anecdotes about interesting applicants. So tell us some stuff.
Yeah, so luckily, part of my job is finding people to work on the machines, do welding, warehouse work, and it's been a struggle. So we're growing quickly and not able to find people to work. So that's a big problem. But recently, I've gotten a lot more applicants. They haven't all been great though. So one example, I scheduled. So what I do is I schedule phone interviews for the first interview. And then if I like the person, I'll have them come in for an in-person second interview. I think that works well in terms of screening quicker. And with COVID, it's less face-to-face time with 50 different people, right? So
Sure.
I scheduled a 1 p.m. interview with a gentleman 2 weeks ago. I called him at 1. He answered. I'm talking to him. Everything was going fine. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a question, and he says, "Hang on." And I like paused, and I was like, "Was that to me?" Like, hello? And then the next thing I heard was, "I'll take a 6-piece with sweet and sour sauce, a Diet Coke, and a large French fry." And then I was like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry about that." And then I was like, "You just ordered McDonald's drive-thru in the middle of an interview." And he's like, "Well,
It's
I
good.
only have time on my lunch break, and I was hungry." And I was like, "I don't think this is going to work."
Got to fuel up. Got to fuel
And
up.
then
But
he called me back 2 or 3 times, and he couldn't understand why it was an issue for me.
Yeah, that's usually you cut out a few. Usually you want the atmosphere for a phone interview to be pristine, and usually.
If I had just called the guy randomly and was like, "Hey, do you have a minute?" I would have completely understood. But if I'm like, "Hey, 12 to 12:30 tomorrow, we have a 30-minute block set up for an interview," you shouldn't be scheduling your McDonald's at the same time.
He should have been like, well, what's the compensation for in this position, and can we supersize it?
Surprise with that. My favorite question.
So I forward Dennis the resumes that come through the website and stuff like that as well. And so, I mean, there's been an up in that, and they're always, I always look at them to see who they go to, because sometimes it's an engineer, sometimes it's not, and sometimes they include the review notes on their Word document, so you can see somebody being very critical of their resume, and it's always a fun, it's a nice mixed bag. But I'm glad to hear that this is starting to wrap itself up, and the labor issues are no longer keeping you up at night, because obviously there's stuff to do. We need those hands downstairs. So I mean, it's nice to hear that good applicants are coming through now, and out filling out the team to, I guess, full. Are you still looking for those listening out there who may need a job in the greater capital district of New York? What is open downstairs?
Absolutely still looking. We're still probably looking to add 1 or 2 plastic welders. You don't have to know how to weld. We train in-house. You just have to be reliable, passionate, somewhat technically sound. And then the other open position that we're trying to fill is a extrusion operator for our night shift. So someone that can run manufacturing equipment that makes the pipes and the flex. That's on our night shift, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and every other Thursday.
Will you look more favorably upon them if their resume says that they are exceptional paintball players?
You trying to stack paintball teams, are you, Mr. Pryce? Is that what you're doing here?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Dennis himself is a good captain, both of the floor and of the paintball thing. Full disclosure: the Centrotherm team building exercises this year were nice, socially distant paintball blasting festivals where we welted and bruised each other up with paintballs. Man, I was really wrecked after Dennis got me a couple times, I think, amongst other folks out there. I am not good at it. I'm a good target.
So let me ask.
I think I almost got you a couple times when you were just taking photos the one day.
Well, it's funny.
Better target.
Yeah, well,
I
that was
just
a whole
saw
other.
movement.
Unarmed.
That was a whole other, I was the only one wearing high visibility, and yet still I took a bunch of like friendly fire for both. I was friendly to both teams as just a journalist. I was out there for Time Life doing wartime photography, and I would have been a casualty. I would have needed a medic myself. But it's really funny. That was one of the best, I think, team building things that Centrotherm has done. Everybody seemed to have a great time. It was a lot of fun. There was, I think, no serious injuries that I can speak of.
Nope,
So
it was good.
good, successful, fun time for everyone, and everyone got to go, which is great as well. I mean, we had one for the sales and leadership team, and then we had a production one, and everybody got to shoot each other with paintballs in a fun, controlled, safe environment, and socially distant too. It was nice, beautiful outdoor days too.
Yep.
It was a good pick. Was that your pick, Mike Sokaris?
It was.
Excellent.
Worked out well. It was a lot of fun. So
Yep.
a question back to kind of the practicality of things. And as you know, our podcast here is about the mechanical room, and obviously production, it's a little bit removed, but what you do impacts the mechanical room. But one of the things that I always find interesting is the link between sales and manufacturing. And you and I, Dennis, spend a lot of time, and Matthew, obviously you're involved as well. But what tips would you give? Don't give away all our secret tips, but what tips would you give a production manager on how to stay, especially in times like now, to stay on top of demand? Is there any magic bullet that can help? Because they're seemingly unlinked, but very linked at the same time.
The first thing is to make sure your national sales manager gets you really good forecasting numbers. That is very important.
So do I get a thumbs up on that, or it could be better?
No, it's been good. And then what I do is I'm a numbers guy, so my degree from RPI is in math. I constantly rework the numbers, so I know on our extrusion machine we can make 2-inch pipe every 17 seconds. I know how many we use right now. If Mike is going to tell me that we're going to have 25% increase in sales, I can run the numbers backwards and see what that looks like in terms of demand on our line. Same thing with the hand welding cell. It's not as exact as 17 seconds of pipe, but every part has an engineered time. I know how many hours we spend making handmade parts a month. I know what 25% on top of that number is, and I know how many extra bodies I need to fill that. So we try to use the forecasting to staff to those levels, and then after that we try to use some reorder point analysis to make sure our work order quantities are optimized in terms of making a batch of 10 versus 50 versus 100. And then we do a lot of continuous improvement projects. So things that take a long time, a lot of labor to make, or parts that are constantly being ordered that are hand worked. We try to automate or improve the process.
So you mentioned 5S and Kaizen and continuous improvement, and I want to come back to that. But to sort of ask a follow-up to the question that you just had there, what is something that as a production supervisor, production manager who is getting the stuff made and out the door, what is something that you wish was understood in greater depth by, say, our customers or even the sales organization at Centrotherm? You're the mechanical maker of stuff. It's all theoretical to someone like me. I deal with a lot of 3D renderings and pictures and stuff of the pipe, but I don't touch it a lot. What is something that you wish I understood better, or our customers at large?
Yeah, so definitely customers. I think you probably understand this a little bit, Matt, especially since you do the matrix. The customers, everybody wants everything immediately. And I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a stock item. That you guys should have that," or whatever the case may be. But there are so many SKUs that we offer, from appliance adapters to cascading branch keys to different terminations. While we do, especially on the residential sizes, stock most of our catalog items, we do not have everything all the time, and we don't have a lot of commercial stuff, especially in terms of the adapters, right? We sell 10 to 50 of them a year. It just doesn't make sense to stock 20 of them on the shelf at all the time. So planning, understanding that, and then, you know, if you have a install coming up, think about the vent. You know, I'm going to use the Centrotherm polypropylene. You know, make sure I get a quote and, you know, a vent bomb done in advance, knowing that those commercial orders, appliance adapters, are custom pieces that take a couple weeks to make.
So essentially what you're saying is plan so that there's not a fire drill at the job site is what you would ripple out into the market, essentially. You know, full
Yep.
credit and kudos to Dennis and the production team, because they put out fires all the time, literal ones on occasion, but actually putting out fires at the job site is something that what Dennis is great at doing. And you know, it's amazing to see work orders get moved and shuffled in order to accommodate some of those fire drill requests, which come in, as you can imagine, I don't know, every 15 minutes you have another like insane job site situation that needs attention and needs to be assessed in terms of priority and speed and logistics and all that sort of stuff. And Dennis does that in real time pretty much. And for the most part, those people walk away happy. And that ties into the next thing, which is how, you know, you're doing that because of production efficiency, I'd like to think. And we've done a few 5S and Kaizen events.
Yep.
Can you explain what that is to the layperson, and can you talk about how that has helped shape what goes on downstairs?
Sure. So 5S, the S's all have a word associated with them. They all start with S, right? So, you know, sort, shine, sustain, and so on. But the gist of it is everything has a home, everything has a spot it goes, you know, everything is neat and organized. And if I need something, I know exactly where it is and it's where it belongs, and I can get it quickly. Right. So if a guy on the welding floor, you know, needs a 3mm welding tip instead of a 4mm welding tip, it's right at his disposal. He can swap his gun out and do it without even getting up off his desk. You know, repair equipment like wrenches and Allen keys and stuff like that for the machines are, you know, on a board where they belong within arm's reach. So if I go out there because the sensor broke, I can go into the cabinet, pull out the tools I need, and fix it without having to run around the entire building looking for, you know, where's the 20mm wrench. So that's 5S. Kaizen events are basically events that help improve your processes by eliminating waste. That just doesn't mean, you know, wasted plastic or raw material, but wasted time, wasted movements, you know, wasted energy, anything that doesn't add value to the part. So we've done a bunch of like overarching Kaizen events where we look at floor layout, where equipment goes, stuff like that. We've done some changeover Kaizen events where we look at how to exchange the different sizes on the extrusion line quicker. So, you know, if I'm making 2-inch pipes now and I need to make 8-inch pipes next, how quickly can I break the machine down, change it over, and then start it back up? And then we do them on the micro level as well as macro. So we'll take apart, you know, hey, we're selling, you know, thousands of these. They take 30 minutes a piece to make. How can we knock that in half and improve, you know, the efficiency on this part? One example of that is on the termination tees. So 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch termination tees. Right now, we kind of hand weld them together. They take 3 to 4 minutes to make each. JJ and I are working on mirror welding them. So instead of wire weld all the way around, we're just heating them up on both sides with a mirror welder for 30 seconds and put them together. So again, it goes from like 3 to 4 minutes down to 30 to 60 seconds.
Cool. That's JJ Bessie, by the way. He's been mentioned a few times. He is our great manufacturing engineer, I believe is his title. And
Yep.
he is someone who had ample airsoft competition on his resume and was a force on the paintball field. So shout out to JJ as well. Mike, you have anything else? I have one more question that I want to ask.
Comments that kind of dovetail together is number one. I mean, as you guys know, I came from a very large, Fortune 300 manufacturer. And I would have to say that, Dennis, I'm pretty impressed with you and your team and what you guys do there. Coming from a really big company, you guys are very nimble. Your team is solid. And from a sales perspective, we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have a good team on your side. So thank you for that. And that kind of cascades down to the whole value chain, as I put it, right? Our reps, our regionals, getting product to market. And lastly, to the plant itself, we love to do tours. If you're listening and you're an engineer or a rep or a contractor, come see what we do at Centrotherm. It's pretty interesting to see little plastic pellets turn into 12-inch diameter pipe and elbows. It's a pretty impressive process. So take us up on that.
Yeah, if you go over to the Instagram, you'll see Dennis gesturing to the machines. I always am down there taking photos and whatnot of Dennis giving the tour. You've done that, once or twice.
Couple times, yes. I don't mind though.
No, you're great at it. That's why, I mean, we wouldn't invite. I mean, generally speaking, it's either engineers or it's sales guys that you're giving that tour to. So it's usually external personalities who are then going to move on to sell that product largely. So. Yep. You're engaging, obviously you're knowledgeable, you do a great job with it, and that's why I'm always like, hey, what are you doing at 2:15 next Tuesday? Gonna need you to go out there and play host to a bunch of people coming through. So we, very grateful for your participation in that as well. Yep. So Michael, unless you have anything else, I have one last unrelated question I'm just curious about.
The last one to you, Mr. Pryce.
All right, so this has nothing to do with the mechanical room or HVAC and whatnot. I am curious. I know you're a big sports guy. Big Mets fan, big Syracuse fan, whatnot. I'm curious, what's the coolest sporting event that you've been to live?
Oh wow, that's a good question.
Too many to name, or you just seen a lot of monotonous five-hitter?
No, there's a couple that stick out. I went to the Mets NLCS game against the Cardinals in 2000, the year they lost to the Yankees in the World Series. And it was the game they clinched to go to the World Series. And they started the game with 6 straight doubles, which was a record at the time. So it was 6-0 after the first inning. The other that sticks out, I'm a big Siena basketball fan too, for the local. When they made their runs, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, with Fran McCaffrey, those were really fun to watch. The kind of David Goliath story. They played Louisville one year, but watching them, I went to a lot of the games at the Times Union Center, and they were good.
Excellent. I thought you were maybe going to say your favorite sporting event was playing football with the former vice president out there, behind the factory, falling all over, pantomiming fake field goals, and making bizarre, biography videos. I'm not even sure. I don't even remember what that was for, but we had a great time doing it. And
that was funny. Can I mention too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of my own, but I mean, obviously, I'm trying to put the focus on the guests there. So Siena basketball clinching.
I'm a big Bucks fan.
Yes, indeed.
And the Bucks just won, and I'm very proud of my fellow Greek, the Greek freak, Mr. Giannis. That's number one. Number two, I got to say, and I got to do a shout out for our Canadian friends out there, going to Edmonton to see an Oilers game. I've been to a lot of hockey games. Something about the Edmonton fans, they're just remarkable. They're probably the best. I'm sure I'm gonna get critiqued from some of our other friends in Canada.
Yes, you will.
Oiler fans are probably the best fans in hockey. Just electrifying to go to that arena.
Bold language from a bold man there. There will definitely be some people out there maybe cursing at you in French, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Potentially, I'm sure.
So that is cool. And Michael does wear his Edmonton jersey with pride. Shout out to, I believe it's Wayne, right? Who you went to with that game.
Yes, at MCO.
So, excellent. So, it's funny. So I went to David Cohen's perfect game, but I'll tell you something that's even
wow.
Yeah. So one, I had tickets and I didn't end up going to what turned out to be David Wells' perfect game. So I was kicking myself for forever until randomly I went to David Cohn's perfect game and I met Mr. Miyagi at that game. That's totally unrelated. So that's cool and that's fine. But actually the coolest sports thing that I think I've ever been to was Greg Maddux pitched against the Yankees when interleague play was super new. And it wasn't a perfect game, but he pitched to the minimum. And so he gave up 2 quick base hits and got 2 quick double plays. And that game was way more masterfully pitched than the David Cohn perfect game. Watching Maddux deal, and I mean, the game was over. It was probably under 2 hours. The Braves won 2-0, and it was like lightning fast in the Bronx there. And that was an artist on the mound that day. Cohn was saved a few times with a nice catch in the outfield. Paul O'Neill, I think, made a catch on the warning track to keep it together, whatnot. So, but Maddux, there was not a moment he was not in complete control. It was Van Gogh meets Picasso meets Renoir at pitching to the minimum. I mean, it was at the top of his game. This was probably like 1995 or something like that. That was, I mean, you probably have horrible memories of those Brave teams. I'm sure you do as a Mets fan. So
I respected, but was not a big fan of Greg Maddux.
You got to respect him. Yeah.
So.
Indeed. So, hey, Dennis, is there anything else you'd like to say to the world of mechanical rooms out there? And if not, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Yeah, everything you do. We're super grateful for. Dennis is a personal friend to us both here and a colleague celebrating 6 years at Centrotherm.
Actually,
it's a pleasure to work with you, and thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for taking time. Go fix the Beller. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the final segment of the show where we wish you a pleasant day and send you back to the real world. Again, the premise of our show is to bring the alignment of the mechanical room and everything in and around it, including today, a fancy training center and a production manager at a HVAC industry manufacturer and some of the trials and tribulations, from failed sensors to logistical problems. Thank you for joining us. We have some really good guests lined up in the future. Mr. Pryce, with that said, take us out and farewell to all.
Indeed. Thanks for listening to the July edition of the Mechanical Room. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also get it on Anchor and Google Podcasts and Apple Music and Spotify and any other place you consume your podcast material. Thank you, Michael. This has been the Mechanical Room.